Good afternoon. I'm not sure if you can hear me well, but it's October 7th, 2021, and I'm standing on the bridge in a town called Biddeford, B-I-D-D-E-F-O-R-D, Biddeford, Maine. And it's a beautiful day. It's like 72 out right now, and you can see some of the foliage coming in. And I'm going to walk down a little further. That right in front of us is the Saco River. Very peaceful. Years ago, when they had the mills, the textile mills, they right off to the left side, there's a tunnel that's been blocked off now. Well, you could stand a bus in there. It was so huge. And they would draw water from the Saco River. And it would go down underneath the streets. Matter of fact, it still exists there. And they used it for water power. Not to generate electricity, but to turn these massive paddle wheels that would turn cogs and belts, and they would power the mill, the looms and the spinning machines and the weavers and everything, just by that power alone. Well, the time is, I don't know what time it is. It's probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock, considering the traffic. I'm gonna do a little pan around. Okay. That's the dam out there. There we go. Now, this area is kind of significant for me when I was a kid. Once upon a time, there used to be a gas station there, filling station, and the building in back of me, back in the 1940s, from what I understand, was a factory where they made bullets. I'm gonna move ahead. Well, this area is rather significant for me as I was going on with that railroad trestle. Now, back in, I'm going to stand in the shadow of this telephone pole. When I was a kid, kindergarten actually, 5 or 6 years old, oh, it would drive my parents nuts, and the teachers as well, because I would be bored and I would just walk out of school. And I would walk for miles. Well, I remember this one particular day. I walked up through Saco. This is the adjoining city. Down through the back way, across the two bridges, and I arrived here. Now, I came up to the scene where there were maybe 100 people lining the streets on both sides, and a policeman right there, and up underneath this railroad trestle was an 18-wheeler, and it was wedged underneath the bridge as it was trying to go up underneath the bridge. Well, it caught the edge of the trailer and it peeled it back like it were a sardine can, and it was wedged. So I walked up to the policeman, as compared to a police officer, as they call them, the corporate officers today, and I looked up to him. I looked up. Seemed like a giant then. He's dressed like Barney Fife. Anyone that's over 55 would remember that. Barney Fife of Mayberry RFD from TV. Anyway, I walked up to him. No questions. He didn't ask me any questions. I asked him, I said, what's happening? And he said, you see that man down there? He points, the one with the white shirt, and I go, yes. He said, he's an engineer. And all those men that were around the truck, they work for him. I said, what happened? He said, well, you see that truck right there? He said, when he went underneath the bridge, it was fine, but the road cut up sharply on the other side, and it caught the top of his truck. And they're trying to figure out how to take the truck out from underneath the bridge. Well, I thought about it for a few seconds, and I go, why don't they just take the air out of the tires? And I still remember his reaction. He did a double take. Funniest thing ever. He did a double take, and he looked at me and he goes, you stay right there. Yes, sir. So he walked down, and the two men met, and they both looked in my direction. And all of a sudden I hear the order yelled out, take the air out of the tires. And you hear this unison hiss from all over. And after a few minutes, the truck driver got back in his truck. Hey, let's watch this scene. He's reminiscing. Hold your breath. Hold your breath. Oh, he cleared it. Okay. Not going to have to take the air out of those tires. Anyway, so the truck driver gets into his cab, puts it into reverse, and then you hear this god-awful wrenching sound, this tearing of metal. But slowly, the truck started to move backwards. And then, when it cleared the bridge, he got out, and all these people started to applaud. Now remember, there was like 100 people. This is the first time that it ever happened. And they were all applauding. So the policeman, who was still there, walks up to the engineer, and they both nod, and they both pointed at me. Now, any kid will know that when an adult points at you, what does it mean? Yeah, exactly. You're in trouble. I hightailed it out of there quick. Okay? Well, I'm gonna fast forward the story a little bit. Maybe about 10, 12 years later, my old man was listening to one of those inspirational tapes, okay? It's a medium of communication on a magnetic tape, okay? Or plastic tape with some type of magnetic film on it, okay? There you go. I'll be corrected on this, which I embrace, it's all good. But anyway, so I'm talking with the old man, and he's listening to these tapes, and he goes, hey Dennis, you need to listen to this guy, this public speaker. His name is Dr. Wayne Dyer. I said, okay, yeah, I'm fascinated about public speakers if they have a good message. Yeah. So I sit down and I start listening to him, and I think this was Dr. Dyer's first series of tapes. I think it was like Earl Nightingale or something like this, that program. And he was telling the story of he called it From the Mouth of Babes. And in this story, he talked about how a tractor-trailer truck had managed to get itself trapped underneath a railroad trestle. And the engineers couldn't figure out how to get it out. Well, on and on, he goes on about this little boy who approaches the policeman, the whole thing, and said, why don't you take the air out of the tires? And I'm thinking to myself, why does that sound so familiar? It's so familiar, I don't know what it was. So I listened to Mr. Dyer, and I'm like, this guy is pretty decent, on and on. So I'm gonna fast forward it again a little bit. Okay, 30 years go by, thereof. I'm on my property when I had one, pre-divorce. Anyone who's ever been through a divorce, I do not recommend it. Then again, I don't recommend living in sadness either. So, that aside, so I'm on the back of my tractor, a Kubota as a matter of fact, and I'm mowing the back lawn, and when you're working like that, your mind travels. You think about different things, or what what the kid's going to be doing tomorrow, on and on. And so all of a sudden, that thought about the railroad trestle popped into my mind. I'm thinking about it, and I'm reviewing it as an adult now. Going on, and I go, what is so familiar about this? And all of a sudden it hit me. Oh my God! I stopped the tractor, and I'm doing my hands up in the air, and I'm shouting. There's no one out there except the deer, all right? And I'm shouting. I'm going, it was me! It was me! I was the one. Okay. Well, when I remembered what had happened, after I did my work, I went in a day later because it was the end of the day. I wanted to share my experience with my recall with Dr. Dyer. So I found his phone number, and I called, and I spoke to his staff. Hey dude. I spoke to one of his staff, and I told him the story. Now, whether the guy thought I sprouted a bird on my head or whatever, I don't know. But Dr. Dyer never contacted me, never responded. There was no postcard. Maybe 6 months went by, and I thought, geez, I haven't heard from him. I wonder what had happened. So I looked up online, and I found that Dr. Dyer had passed away 3 months after I made the phone call. And so, in spirit, all those of you who are familiar with John Edwards and who's the other guy? They're all fantastic in their own right as mediums. They would understand that Dr. Dyer would be fully aware and would have appreciated the humor of the whole event. But anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. And I have to tell you one more part. I remember telling a friend who lived down in Florida. I told him that story, and he said, do you know how famous you are? And I said, really don't care about fame, It really doesn't matter. Well, it does in some respects, yes. But I said, I don't take the credit, just take the money. That's what I replied. And he laughed, and that was about it. But if any of you recall that event having taken place, awesome. So he lives in, I currently live, no, there's a Hardly Dangerous. I currently live in Saco, Maine, and not too far from this bridge, which is in Biddeford. And so, anyway, hope you have a great day, and peace out.